Welcome to the channel where we talk about all things Operation Christmas Child. I'm so excited about today's video because we are talking with Kayla up here. You guys, we asked a few weeks ago for you to send in some questions for missionaries that receive these Operation Christmas Child boxes that we pack all year long. And Kayla and her husband have sat down together and they have mulled over your questions and they are ready to answer them. But guys, you asked so many great questions that this is a two-parter. So if you don't see your questions answered on my video, hop over to the video, which will be linked below, to Kayla's channel, where she will finish answering all of your great questions. I'm so excited to do this collab, and we're so blessed to get to have this perspective of shoebox packing. So let's get started and ask some questions.
Awesome. And I love what you said there. And you do this on your channel all the time. You always mention it's our perspective. So don't let anyone ever say anything that stops you from putting something in a shoebox. If God puts something on your heart, this is our perspective, our opinions, but there's no right way. There's not one right way to pack a shoebox. So don't let us discourage you from things. But we are going to share my opinion from being overseas. I've been overseas since 2017, received boxes in the jungles of Ecuador, and now in a big capital city with 7 million-ish people. And so giving you our perspective, but don't let that stop you from packing something.
Yes, I'm so glad that we're going to have the perspective of both a city mission and a rural mission, because that was one of my personal questions. I am excited.
Absolutely.
This one is from Jeannie, and she wants to know, can she personally come to Colombia or Ecuador and be part of the distribution?
Super great question. And this is the one I'm actually going to read from our manual. So when we go through the training, and I have videos up on my channel about how you apply for boxes as a missionary or as a pastor and what you have to go through to get it, we go through a long training. And one of the questions in our manual, let me find it. One of the questions here says, can we invite foreigners to distribute the boxes in our evangelistic events? So we plan a party and we give out the boxes at that party. And so it's actually one of the most asked questions. These are frequently asked questions. Can we invite foreigners to distribute boxes in evangelistic events? And here is the response from Operation Christmas Child. I'm going to translate it because it's in Spanish, so bear with me on my translation. Translating word for word from what Operation Christmas Child says. A great part of the mission of OCC is with the local church in all the world. Share the good news of Jesus Christ. Because of that, our policy at Operation Christmas Child is not to allow foreigners, except for those who are part of the ministry of Samaritan's Purse, to participate in evangelistic events or to give gifts to the kids. Operation Christmas Child desires that the project is administered and seen as a local ministry and not from a foreigner. So their desire is that these kids see the local church, because the goal of these boxes is to evangelize to the kids and to bring them into their local church. But if the kids are getting it from an outsider, from someone foreign, then they're going to be like, but that came from the foreigner and I want to be with the foreigner, and they're not necessarily going to be drawn to the local church. And so the response of Operation Christmas Child is no, not to have foreigners. Now, obviously I'm from the United States and I'm in Colombia. And so you go, okay, but you're a foreigner and you're giving out boxes. Well, that's where that little clause comes in, except for the people that are a part of the ministry of Samaritan's Purse. I live here. I work with those kids on a daily, weekly basis. And so they know me. Most of them, what's surprising, we've been working with these kids for 3 years, and some of them still don't know that I'm from the United States. So because I am with them, I get kind of grandfathered in, I guess is the way to put it. But the heart of Operation Christmas Child is to use these boxes to connect the kids with the local church so that they continue to hear about Jesus Christ. And so unfortunately, their recommendation or their request is that no, we don't invite foreigners to give out boxes. Now I'm going to add to that and say mission trips are phenomenal. And if you can get on a mission trip and go and serve in a local church in a foreign country, go for it. It just can't necessarily be during Operation Christmas Child. So that's their response. I would love to see people come and see it from this end, which is why we're doing the videos to show you from this end. But Operation Christmas Child says no. So.
Well, thanks so much for sharing that. It's so cool to see, because we don't know what's in those manuals and we don't know what it's like on the ground serving. So thank you so much for the insight and letting us know what Samaritan's Purse thinks about that.
Yeah. And that one, again, it's not my opinion. That's what was in our giant 8-hour training. I think it was. It was a long day.
In case you guys are interested about that training, she has a video. So watch in her playlist, and she's going to take us through the whole process of what it's like to train to receive the boxes, when they get the boxes, and then how they distribute them. So
which is coming up. We're so excited to distribute.
When is that? When is distribution?
We are going to do it on April 9th. So
yay!
So close. So close. We're so excited.
I cannot wait to see the video. If you guys think of it, let's pray for their party on April 9th.
Amen. Amen.
Okay, next question is from Dale or Daly. I had a friend, her name was Daly, and it was spelled like this. So if you're Dale or Daly, this is from you. It says, baby dolls, what style is recommended?
Did you have an opinion on that one? I don't think there's a wrong style of baby doll. What I would say is try to steer clear of the Caucasian blue-eyed baby dolls. Why? Because a lot of these boxes go to countries where they don't look like me. And so for a child to get a baby doll that looks like them, or that looks similar to them or their friends, I think that would just touch hearts. I don't know, Robin, if you have any recommendations. Again, you're more on suggestions of what to pack in terms of items. Do you have any suggestions on baby dolls?
I agree with you in that I try to get a very neutral looking doll, especially, and if the only options available are Caucasian babies, then I try to find one with darker hair, because most people have dark hair, even here in the States. So again, having a baby doll that looks like you can really make you feel special and loved. And then as far as the style of baby goes, that just, you kind of hit on this earlier, is just be mindful of the age group you're packing for. So for the young ones, the 2 to 4, maybe even just a plush baby doll that they can squish and love and hug. And then the 5 to 9 is kind of that sweet age range where they can probably play with any style baby doll. And then for the teenage girls, again, a more mature one, like you said, that maybe comes with accessories or has more detail or more clothing, just so that you are helping them with their cognitive ability, where they are in their understanding of this toy and how to play and learn and grow.
Absolutely. And yeah, I will say, so we were looking, I mean, Eliana just turned 1, and we were looking at dolls because my dad, her grandpa, wanted to buy her one. And here in Colombia, in Bogota, Colombia, capital city, all of the babies look like me. Blue eyes. We could not find a single baby doll that did not have blue eyes. And yeah, is it wrong to give her a doll that doesn't have blue eyes? No, absolutely not. She could play with it. She's going to enjoy it. But my dad actually found one on Amazon that looks pretty much like her, has some hazel honey colored eyes, and purchased that one. And it actually touched my husband's heart. My husband is Colombian, and it touched his heart to see that my dad went the extra mile to find a doll that looked like her. So it was just a little tidbit, and it touched us, even though it wasn't in an Operation Christmas Child box, just something that made my husband feel loved and appreciated. So
yeah, that's so sweet. I mean, even here in the States, people pay hundreds of dollars for the American Girl dolls that are made to look just like you. And so imagine receiving a box and you've never seen a doll that looks like you, and then you open it up and there she is with your hair color and your eye color and your skin tone. It just would be such a fun feeling. Okay, next question again is from Beth, and she is wondering if you can give more information about the graph paper, because you mentioned that in one of your videos. She said that she's been packing notebook paper, but in some countries that it might not be helpful. Is there a certain size of graph paper that we need to be looking for?
So yes, I did mention that on one of my last videos. In both Ecuador and Colombia, kids need graph paper. And so they need it especially for writing, for like English or their Spanish classes, for math classes, but it's just the standard graph paper. I don't even know what the measurements are, but it's whatever your normal graph paper is. And here it comes in spirals, which is interesting. All of their little spirals are graph paper. But I will say lined paper isn't bad. They can still use it for other subjects. They can still use it for their homework. So if you can't find graph paper, or if lined paper is what is easy, I know at back to school, it's like 10 cents for a lined spiral, send it. It's not a problem to have lined paper. That was just a comment of, I was surprised when I got overseas that they needed graph paper, because in the States, we don't use graph paper until like geometry. So I was surprised that the kids need it, but that doesn't mean that lined paper isn't useful.
Okay, and then this next one is from Denise. She said, since most boxes go to warm climate, what tends to get melty in the box and what doesn't? Do we need to put melty items in baggies like lip balm, glue sticks, and crayons?
So, super good question. And what's hilarious is I would not say lip balm or glue sticks or crayons, surprisingly. Soap. The only thing that has ever melted is soap, because it gets humid and the humidity causes it to become like tacky, and the soap ends up leaking out on the boxes. When I was in Ecuador, it was 104 degrees, 100% humidity on almost a daily basis. And with the boxes, we never had any melting issues, not with glue sticks, not with chapstick, not even with crayons. I mean, you can err on the side of caution and pack the crayons or the chapstick in a little baggie. But the one thing that we had the most issues with was soap. And the box, and the ones that melted the most were zest, the like green. So we opened one box once and opened the lid, and A, it smelled like soap. And B, everything was covered in this green goo. And the child looks at me and goes, I didn't do it. And I was like, it's okay, honey, we'll swap it. And so we had to swap out that box, poor kiddo. But so I would say soap needs to be in a baggie. And then if you want to err on the side of caution, crayons and chapstick would be the next ones. But soap, which is one that you don't normally think of. And it's because of the humidity, not because of the pure heat. So
that's so interesting, because soap has been kind of an area of debate over the past like 12 months of packing boxes. So it's so important to know that we need to be careful with the soap when we pack it.
And even if it's in the box, it still tends to leak and like coat the box with like goo almost, where you can see the stuff coming out of the box. It's the weirdest, but soap. And here in Bogota, we're at like 70-80% humidity. Most of these countries are humid climates, even if they're cold. Like here it's 70 degrees, but 70% humidity. So
yes. Well, thanks for letting us know.
Yep. Yeah. When I saw that question, I was like, oh, this is going to surprise them with this answer, because it's not the things that we typically think of, but soap.
Yeah.
And I know some countries aren't allowed to send soap. So again, as Robin always mentions, check your Operation Christmas Child website, check those rules. We are speaking from our experience and from what we know, but Operation Christmas Child gives all the information for each country that sends. So make sure you always read up on that.
Yes. And check it every year, because it changes. Okay. So the next question is actually my question.
All right.
And I wanted to know, I see a lot of these amazing parties on the websites, and a lot of these are in remote villages and jungles or desert lands, places with little electricity and no running water. But we also know that your current ministry focuses on families in the cities. So can you let us know what types of items are better for which environment and how we can pack a neutral box for both types of ministries?
Yeah, and I've touched on that a little bit. I think some of those key items that are expensive, no matter whether you're in a remote or in a capital city, some of those expensive items, the deodorant, the colored pencils, things like that, I think are essentials. But aside from that, I don't think the boxes really should vary that much because they're the same kids, whether they're in a remote environment or in a big city, they're still a 10-year-old boy. They're still a 12-year-old girl. And so I don't think it really changes that much. I'm trying to think. I think the only thing that I would say maybe to steer clear of would be like super winter items, because if we got a winter item in Bogota, it's useful because we're 70 degrees, we have lots of rain. And so they would use those gloves and those hats. But if it went to a 40 is Celsius. If it went to a 100-degree jungle area, they're going to look at that and be like, and what do I do with the wool hat? So if you want to make it a neutral box, I think the only thing would be not to go to the extremes clothing wise. So don't go super, super cold or tank top super, super hot. If you stick right around the middle with a t-shirt with, even if it's a fun scarf, like they make some that aren't wool that are just kind of decorative scarves, things like that. That way it works for both climates. But I don't think in terms of the toys or the school supplies, I don't think that changes at all because they still go to school. They still like to play no matter where they're at. I think the only thing to make it a neutral box would be to avoid super, super cold clothing or super, super hot clothing.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, Sue and Mike from Canada want to know, since you have to order boxes ahead of time, how do you determine how many you are going to need in each age group?
Such a good question. And the best response is prayer. So we go off of what we know with our ministry. We've been working with these kids, like I said, for years. And so we know roughly how many kiddos come. And then we always up that a little bit because you're going to get some invited kids. Because when you say we're having a party, now we don't tell them they get gifts. We don't tell them anything about the shoe boxes. That is to be a surprise. And that's what Operation Christmas Child tells us. But we do tell them, hey, we're going to have a party. So for instance, when we do it on the 9th, it's going to be an Easter party. So it's going to be something, so they know that it's going to be special. They know that it's something special. They know they're probably going to get something special. Usually it's an extra snack. It's something special for a snack. And this time we're going to surprise them with special shoe boxes. But when you say that, they're going to invite all their friends. So we have to ask for more boxes than we know our core kids. So for instance, we know we have 60 teenage boys. We're going to ask for 80 teenage boxes roughly, just because we know that some extra kiddos are going to come. But I think that's something that's always very difficult. And then you have to, for us planning wise, you have to know how many boxes you have and make sure you don't have more kids than boxes. So when we're checking them at the door, we always put wristbands on the kids. And this is something that I don't think people realize. We have to know how many boxes we have. So for instance, we have 10 2 to 4 year old boy boxes. And so we will have 10 wristbands for that color. Let's say it's yellow. We will have 10 yellow wristbands for the 2 to 4 boy boxes. And once we hand out those 10 wristbands, then we have to figure out what to do. We either have to turn them away, which we try not to, or invite them to a later party and ask for more boxes. It's a whole challenge, but the easy answer is we pray a lot and we try to ask for a few more boxes than we think we're going to have kids, because we would rather send them back to OCC than not have enough boxes. I hope that answers the question, but that is the hardest question and the hardest thing to plan for as a pastor or as a church or as a missionary. So
would there ever be a time when, say, you would give like a 10 to 14-year-old girl a box that's actually for a 5 to 9-year-old girl? Would that be something that happens?
We have, there is not a specific rule that says not to. We try hard not to do it because we understand that they've been packed for that age group. But if we do get to that point, so for instance, if we had too many 2 to 4 boys come, I would look at the oldest boy that I had on that 2 to 4 range, and I would swap their wristband and say, hey, come here really fast. We're going to put you on the green team. And I would swap it for a younger kiddo. And you try to do the best you can. Again, we don't want to turn the kids away by any means. And so if that's the best solution we have in the moment, that's what we do. But there is not a specific rule with OCC, at least not in our training, that says we can't do it. You just understand that those boxes have been packed for that age. So you try to be as faithful to those packers as you can, giving it to the age that they've asked for.
Good to know. Good to know.
Super hard question. That was,
Thanks, Sue.
Yeah, right.
Sue also wants to know, how do you find the sizes of clothing to be sent? Do they come adequate?
That would be my biggest suggestion. Go for the largest size in the box. So if it's 10 to 14, plan for a 14-year-old. Imagine a 14-year-old is almost driving. Think of how big a 14-year-old in comparison to a 10-year-old. We have had lots of problems in the past, especially with shoes. So my one recommendation is once they get past the 2 to 4 age range, sandals are fine, because sandals, if they're a little big, a little small, it doesn't matter. But don't send shoes, because we have had so many shoes that come that don't fit them, because everyone's feet are so different. So once you pass that like young age, I wouldn't send shoes, because they just don't fit. They just are too big, too small. But the one recommendation I would have is with the packing of clothes, err on the side of caution. You would rather have it be too big than too small. So look at the biggest size, and I'm going to try to find a photo. We've got 10-year-olds that I'm telling you are this tall, and 14-year-olds that are taller than I am. And so when you put them next to each other and you go, they're getting the same box. I hope they get a big size.
I know so many times when I'm personally packing, I'm like, oh, 10 to 14 is it's like a bigger age range. It feels like,
that's when they grow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say err on the side of caution. And then my personal recommendation is sandals are fine, but try not to send shoes, because their feet are such different sizes. And it's always a bummer if they get shoes that don't fit them. Now, what we do as missionaries, if they get something that doesn't fit them, is we tell them, oh, that's wonderful. You get to pass the love on to someone else. So find a sibling and you get to show your sibling love by giving them. So we try to kind of bandage but this doesn't fit me. You're right. But God blessed you with the opportunity to bless someone else. So we try, but yeah, send bigger rather than smaller.
This next one is from GTB Mel, I think. They want to know, in general, is it okay to pack toys in the 2 to 4 age group that are more for a 3-year-old and older?
There we go. I would say absolutely. Anything older is fine. I wouldn't necessarily go younger. So don't put a toy that says 2+ in the 5 to 9 box, because they're going to look at that and be like, but that's a little child's toy. Unless it's something that you can think, oh no, this would really be cool for a 5 to 9-year-old. Because I know some of those Tonka trucks or toys say that they're for younger, but they look really cool. But yeah, I would say there's no problem with giving something that's a little bit older. The only thing would be try to avoid super small parts. So if it's a 5 to 9-ish age group, but you're going to put it in a 2 to 4 box, try to have it not have super teeny tiny parts, just in case a 2-year-old gets it. But I don't think there's really a problem in aging up a little bit. Kids play with toys for all sorts of age ranges.
That's true.
Or paper, as we've seen early on. It doesn't even have to be a toy.
It doesn't have to be a toy. They'll play with it. GTB Mill also wants to know, OCC gives the percentage of boxes packed for each age group and gender if you ask them. Do you know the percentage of boxes requested by missionaries for each age group and gender? What are the needs in the box compared to what is provided by us?
So what's surprising is, unfortunately, and I mentioned this on one of our videos, they don't give us exactly what we've asked for. So for instance, we asked for more boy boxes because we have a lot more boys in our ministry than girls. And I don't know why. That just is what it is. In the neighborhood where we serve, there are tons of boys and very few girls. And so we asked for like 60 boy boxes to 40 girl boxes. And when we went to pick them up, they told us that unfortunately they couldn't do that. They can give us an equal number. And so we have roughly the same number of girl and boy boxes. And I'm assuming that's because they didn't want us to take all the boy boxes and then other churches wouldn't have boxes for boys. So I get the idea behind it. But the fact is, they don't always give us what we ask for. They try to make it as equitable for all the pastors as possible. So for us in our ministry, we needed way more boy boxes for 10 to 14 and 5 to 9 than we did girl boxes. But they weren't able to give us that because they had to keep it equitable and fair. So I can't really tell you in terms of percentages in all the world or percentages in ministry, just because I only know from what we experience. But I would say the biggest age range that we typically ask for are the 5 to 9 and the 10 to 12 or 10 to 14 boxes. Those tend to be the most requested. But there's not really a good answer to their question, just because every ministry is different, every country is different, every location is different. But I will say the 5 to 9 and the 10 to 14 are probably the most needed, just because those are the kids that come on their own to ministry. The 2 to 4 year olds need their parents to come with them, so we tend to have less 2 to 4 year olds. Just personal experience.
Well, that's it for my video. Thank you so much to Kayla for answering all of our amazing questions. And don't forget, this is just one half of these videos. There is another video just like this on Kayla's channel. I will link that in the description below, and I really want you to go watch it. So that's it for today. And in case no one has told you, I love you lots. Bye.